There was a time, not too long ago really, when this house was full of life, full of footsteps running down the hall, the clatter of dishes in the sink, the hum of conversation floating from room to room. Someone was always coming in or going out. There was always a door opening, a question being asked, a laugh being shared. It was chaotic, but it was beautiful. It was your life. You were needed. You were central. You were the one holding it all together. And now it's quiet. The silence isn't loud, but it's deep. The kind that settles over a house and wraps around you like a heavy blanket. You sit with it, try to fill it with music or the television or a passing phone call, but it doesn't go away. It lingers. And in that silence, memories start playing like old home videos in your mind. You see the kids when they were small. You hear their laughter echo down the hallway. You remember the way they used to call out for you when they got home. And it hits you. They don't do that anymore. They don't come around like they used to. It's not anger you feel. Not really. It's something quieter, something sadder, like standing at the shoreline and watching the tide pull back farther and farther, knowing it might not return the way it once did. And you try to be understanding. You tell yourself they're busy, they've grown, they have families, responsibilities. They've got a life to live, and they do. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. That doesn't mean you don't long for just a little of what you used to have. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the pain no one prepares you for, the letting go no one teaches you how to do, and the life you still have, rich, full, and waiting to be lived for you. Chapter 1, The Unspoken Grief of Absence. Grief is a tricky thing. Most people think of it as something that comes when someone dies. But grief doesn't always wait for death. Sometimes it arrives in the spaces where love used to live, in the sound of a phone that doesn't ring, in a birthday that passes without a call, in the way your arms ache not from labor, but from not being held. It's a quiet grief, unspoken, often misunderstood, because from the outside everything looks fine. No one has gone anywhere permanently. They're still alive, still out there, but they're not here, not in the ways they used to be. In that absence, it leaves a bruise, one that no one else can see, but you feel it every day. There are moments you don't talk about, like how you keep the house clean just in case someone decides to stop by, how you still make a little extra food, even though you know it'll go in the fridge untouched, how you check your phone and reread old texts just to feel close to someone, how holidays have started to feel more like reminders than celebrations. And yet, you carry it all. You smile, you say, I'm fine. But inside, there's a loss you don't know how to name. And you wonder, is it wrong to feel this way? Am I being selfish? The answer is no. Your feelings are real, and they deserve to be honored. Because naming the grief is the first step in freeing yourself from it. Not to forget, not to pretend it never existed, but to begin to breathe again, to make room for new life, even in the presence of longing. Chapter 2, Time has carried them forward, and you too. There's a beautiful tragedy in parenting, in loving deeply. It's that you pour everything you have into someone, and if you do it well, they grow strong enough to leave you. It's the paradox of success, that the more you give, the more they gain, and eventually they don't need you in the same way anymore. And that's good. That means you did something right, but knowing that doesn't make the absence easier. The toddlers who clung to your leg are now adults with their own calendars, bills, obligations. They're running on empty some days, just like you once did. And you understand that. You've been there. You know how overwhelming life can be. But part of you still aches, still misses the simplicity of being the center of their world, still wants to matter in the way you used to. And that's okay. But here's the thing. Time hasn't just carried them forward. It's carried you too. You have grown, changed, adapted. In this chapter you're in now, it's not just a waiting room for their return. It's yours, fully yours. This is not the ending of your story. This is the beginning of something sacred, a season not defined by their presence, but by your own awakening. The question is no longer, why don't they come? But what is waiting for me now? Because the same current that took them into their future is offering to carry you into yours, Dripto. Chapter 3, The Danger of Measuring Love by Presence. We've all done it. We count the visits. We keep score. We say things like, they haven't called in weeks, or she only stays for an hour now. And we start to tie our sense of value to those numbers. We begin to believe that love should look a certain way, arrive at a certain time, speak a certain language. But love is not always punctual. It's not always loud. And it's certainly not always how we imagined it. Sometimes love is subtle. It's a recipe they cook that you taught them. It's the way they look at their children the same way you looked at them. It's them telling a friend how strong you were, even if they never say it to your face. When we measure love by physical presence alone, we set ourselves up for heartbreak. We close the door to other forms of connection, and we begin to believe a lie, that we are unloved. But you are not unloved. Love lives in more plays than you can see. And while it may not walk through the door every weekend or call you every day, it might still live in their heart, deeply and truly. It's just wearing a different form now. And that doesn't mean you don't deserve effort. It doesn't mean you should accept neglect. But it does mean you have to widen your lens. See the love in the quiet places. Receive it in new ways. Because love doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. Chapter 4, Reclaiming the Joy of Your Own Life. There's a freedom that most people don't talk about in this stage of life. A freedom that comes when you stop waiting for someone else to bring you happiness. When you wake up one morning and decide that your joy matters, even if no one else shows up to see it. You start small. Maybe you take a walk just to feel the sun on your skin. Maybe you go to the market and buy yourself flowers. Not because someone else should have, but because you want them. Maybe you try something new. A class, a club, a recipe, a song. You begin to fill your own cup. Not with desperation, but with delight. And as you do, something shifts. The emptiness begins to soften. The quiet becomes peaceful instead of painful. And in that peace, you rediscover parts of yourself that had gone quiet. Parts that once lived for more than just taking care of others. Parts that laugh freely, dream deeply, love fully. You remember that you are still alive, not surviving, not just existing, alive. And when you live like that, the world notices. People are drawn to someone who has found peace in their own company, someone who knows how to celebrate their own soul. You stop being a destination for guilt and become a source of inspiration. And that's powerful. Chapter 5, Becoming a Beacon, Not a Burden. It's easy to feel like you're being forgotten, like you've become someone they only think about when they have time. And when that thought sinks in, it hurts. And in that hurt, sometimes we try to pull them back by reminding them of what they're missing, by pointing out how long it's been, by making our pain visible in hopes they'll respond. But pain, when used as bait, rarely brings the connection we want. Instead, what if you became someone they longed to visit, not because they felt obligated, but because you were a light in their life, a source of wisdom, laughter, calm, someone who radiated grace. That kind of presence doesn't go unnoticed. You become a beacon, not by pretending you're never lonely or never hurt, but by choosing joy anyway. By living with purpose, by letting your life speak louder than your silence. And over time, visits may come again, not because they feel guilty, but because they genuinely want to be near you. Because who wouldn't want to be near someone who makes them feel seen, loved, and welcome, without shame, without pressure, without expectation? You have the power to be that presence, not just for them, but for yourself. Final chapter: letting go doesn't mean closing the door. Letting go is not easy, especially when what you're letting go of was once the center of your world. It feels like surrender, like admitting defeat, but it's not. Letting go is not the same as giving up. It's a sacred act of love, of trust, of choosing to live, even when others don't show up in the way you hoped. You can still love them, still pray for them, still leave the door open, but you don't have to sit by it. You can walk through your own house and fill it with music again. With your music, you can cook your favorite meal just for you and savor it without apology. You can call someone new, try something bold, write a letter, take a class, fall in love with life again. And if they come, welcome them with grace, with open arms, but not because you've been waiting, because you've been living. You've done your part. You've given. You've raised. You've built. And now this is your time, not to fade into the background, but to step fully into yourself. You don't need to be visited to be valuable. You don't need to be called to be cared for. You are still whole, still radiant, still becoming. If this spoke to you, I'd love for you to be part of this growing community. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. This space is for healing, for reflection, for real connection. Thank you for being here.